Buck, the weird bunny mascot of GameStop, has his own Game Boy Color game that you can buy in very select GameStops. I wanted to do a review of Buck, but first, here's a quick unboxing of the physical cartridge. Buck and the Cursed Cartridge. My local GameStop literally just closed down, and the nearest GameStop is like an hour away. So I was not able to pick this up in stores, and I don't even know how many stores carry it, but I ordered this online with a gift card I got that I couldn't spend at my local GameStop because sadly it has closed. So, Buck, the little rebellious mascot of GameStop, stole a cursed cartridge from GameStop and gets sucked into the game, and this is basically his adventure through all that. When I was looking at these screenshots, I thought, like, this actually might be a pretty fun game, so I knew I had to get it. This is just the unboxing at the beginning of the video. I'm going to be playing this on a Game Boy adapter for the GameCube and then upscaling it to 1080p. So what you see when I get to the review part will be as close to authentic gameplay as I can give you. Right, here we go. It's a glossy box. I really wish these were plastic boxes, but the Chromatic comes in cardboard just like the Game Boy games used to come in. Maybe I can find a protective sleeve to put it in. That was very easy. That is not my fault. That is a manufacturing error. That's what made it so easy to open, though. Well then, does that make it more rare? Does that make it more collectible? Don't know. Ooh, a white cartridge. Now that's pretty cool. We'll get back to that, though. First, we have a manual to look at, and it looks like there's nothing else inside. It's black inside, which is kind of cool. Put the extra effort into that. We got a full color manual. That's nice. Mod Retro has carefully assessed this product. Well, he didn't assess the box, though. Yeah, this is a nice little manual. Alright. Ooh, was there even a section to take notes? Nice. Alright, we get a little Buck keychain thing. I think most, if not all, Chromatic games come with a keychain. As you can tell, it's not enamel. It's kind of just like a rubbery plastic. Like one of those pencil erasers that doesn't work. That seems quite nice. How do I get this cartridge out of here? I always find these type of packagings difficult to remove things without damaging the plastic. It is made in Mexico. Interesting. It is a Game Boy cartridge. Feels like a Game Boy cartridge. Now, it has the notch for the original Game Boy, so I'm going to see if this is compatible with an original Game Boy real quick. So this is a Game Boy Pocket. It can't play Game Boy Color games, only original Game Boy games, so this is how I'm going to test this out. We're just going to pop that in there, try to figure out where the on switch is, and it says Nintendo. I think it's going to work. Ah, wait, no it's not. Sorry, this game is only playable on color-compatible devices. No! Alright, so this one is only playable on the Game Boy Color. Glad I tested that for y'all. The first thing that stood out to me was the graphics of this game. They were actually really nice for a Game Boy Color game. I grew up with the Game Boy Advance, so it takes a lot to impress me on the Game Boy, as it was already later in its life cycle, but this Game Boy Color game is actually really nice. Even the GameStop logo coming down in the beginning was just very clean and made me think of all the possibilities of what it would have been like if GameStop was a publisher back in the day. The story is pretty basic, as the box pointed out. Buck essentially demands that they sell him a cursed Game Boy game in which he gets sucked into and has to find his way out. He's offered a sword, but turns out Buck is pretty pro 2A and brought his own gun. The gameplay is pretty simple. You jump on enemies to defeat them, or you shoot them, depending on what you want and the method it takes to defeat them. And killing all the enemies completes the stage, and you find the exit, and there you go. In each stage, there are coins hidden around, and we'll get back to those coins later. Buck can take multiple hits, which is great, and while he only has one life in the stage you're in, he has unlimited continues. So basically, if you die in your stage, you repeat that stage, but you don't repeat the whole game, which makes this more accessible than, say, the original Mario. I found the maps pretty well designed and fun to work around. It didn't seem like everything was just shoved together really fast. There are 9 maps called stages, and there are 5 worlds, and each world has 9 stages. When you explore around the first world, or what is essentially just the town, you get to talk to the NPCs and discover some gaming references. If you go underground, you'll find a shop, and from what I know, this is the only place you spend your tokens, but you actually want to spend your tokens here because a lot of the things in the shop are very useful. There's also a fountain in the hub world that replenishes your health, which is very useful when you're going in between stages. And what is really impressive for a Game Boy Color game is every time you exit or enter the hub world, your game auto-saves, along with other important decisions. I don't think I've ever played a Game Boy game that has auto-saving, but especially not a Game Boy Color game. And just with the little saving icon popping up in the corner, this felt very high quality for what I was expecting to be a throwaway mascot platformer. Now in here I also threw in some footage of me playing it on a modded Game Boy Advance just because playing this on the GameCube player was a pain. There's a slight floatiness to Buck's jumps, which added to the delay of playing it through a Game Boy player, through an HDMI converter, through OBS, was just not the most enjoyable way of playing it. But while Buck's jumps do take a little bit of getting used to, I had a much easier time on my official console. I ended up getting to the boss fight of the first world and was not expecting this difficulty jump where the boss has so much health. It takes so many hits to take out this boss. I was expecting maybe 3 jumps on the head and he'd be down. That ended up getting me killed. What I ended up figuring out is you can jump over his attacks and kind of just loop that and repeatedly shoot him in the back every time he runs underneath you. And if you do that correctly, you can just keep doing that until he dies, and that's what I did. Following each world, there seems to be a mini game, and the first one is a minecart mini game because they were referencing Minecraft, but they also were referencing a Donkey Kong level. I found this really fun, but be prepared to die a few times. But then again, it's actually a good idea to die a few times because failing means you can keep collecting coins in this level. You don't lose coins from dying or being kicked out of a level. The next world is Halloween themed, which every game in the 90s had to have a Halloween level, and I think that's pretty cool. And it looks pretty cool. That's as far as I've gotten so far, but I can say that I'm really enjoying this game. Sadly, I think it is made specifically for people who grew up with the Game Boy Color and GameStop, because the crude humor of Buck isn't really making the game any more accessible to new generations of children. So it does kind of feel like a game that would have been released on the Game Boy Color and probably benefited from being released in that time period. However, if that's exactly what you're looking for, I'd say this is the game for you. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope I did an okay job covering some of this game. I was originally just going to do a little Let's Play, and then I thought, you know what, there's so much going on, I kind of just want to cover this with a pre-recorded voiceover. But if you like this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. Like 90% of my viewers aren't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.